Hey, good afternoon, my fellow history lovers. I am Historical, and we're coming back with another episode on PTSD, veterans, and suicide. Before we begin, I want to say something clearly. This episode is not here to diagnose anyone, it's not here to give advice, and it's not here to offer any easy answers. It's here to bear witness. If at any point you need to pause, step away, or ground yourself, please do that. There is no obligation to continue. I want you to stay when you choose it. History loves endings. It loves dates that let us close the book. Things like an armistice is signed, a surrender is accepted, or a war is declared over. But for many who fought, the war did not end. It only changed shape. It follows them home, not as memory alone, but in every sensation, as instinct, as a nervous system that refused to stand down. This episode is about what happens after survival, because surviving the war, for many, was only the beginning. People imagine a homecoming as a restoration, a return to something intact, something familiar. But war does not pause a person's inner life, it only rewires it. Many veterans describe a moment, something during the journey home, sometimes even weeks later, when they realize something has shifted. They were safe, but they did not feel safe. The world looked familiar, but it no longer behaved the way their body expected it to. Every sound felt sharper, crowds felt dangerous, and silence felt suspicious. And no one had warned them that this might happen. They had trained for combat, but they had not trained for peace. One of the most misunderstood aspects of war trauma is this: it is not only memory, it is physiology. You see, the body learns patterns in war to help keep it alive. Things like scanning the room constantly, things like reacting instantly, and things like assuming everything's a threat until proven otherwise. These responses are not failures. They are very much successes learned under extreme conditions where it's required. But when the environment changes, the body does not receive the memo. You see, coming home, your hometown doesn't have checkpoints. There's no perimeters to clear. There's no rules of engagement. So the body fills in the gaps, right? With things like vigilance, with tension, and with exhaustion. Many veterans say the body came home, but the nervous system stayed deployed. There was a moment many veterans describe with discomfort and guilt. And this happens in grocery stores, at birthday parties, at family dinners. They look around and think to themselves, how can everyone be this calm? Laughter often feels out of place. Small talk, oh my God, small talk feels obscene. Complaints about trivial things feel unbearable. This often reaction is misunderstood as anger, but it is more accurately grief. Anger is simply a secondary emotion. But there's grief for a world that cannot see what they have seen. There's grief for a version of themselves that once fit into this space he's in. They do not feel superior from you. They simply feel displaced. They feel like a foreigner in their own life. And this struggle did not begin in the modern era. After wars throughout history, veterans returned changed, but they were expected not to be changed. They were expected to be who they were when they left. In early centuries, trauma manifested visibly. People were having tremors. They couldn't keep their hands from shaking. They would lose speech. They would have paralysis without any injury, physical injury. These men were not treated gently. They were often accused of weakness, being weak, or being a coward, or having moral failure. Some were punished, some were institutionalized, and some were simply discarded and thrown away. The language to describe psychological injury did not always exist, so the suffering went unnamed. And if you can't name it, it can't be forgiven, because what are you forgiving? Many veterans learned quickly that speaking honestly came at a cost. People tended to lean away from it or maybe change the subject. Or what I think is the most egregious, they would offer platitudes. So veterans did what they do. They adapted, baby, adapt and overcome. They learned to edit themselves, to soften the stories, and to remain vague. Eventually, many chose to stop trying because silence became protection. But silence is always heavy, and it always comes with a price. When silence is carried long enough, it becomes isolating. And this is where it starts getting bad. Isolation is how trauma deepens, not only through memory alone, but through this disconnection. In war, identity is very clear. You have a role, you have a unit, and you have a mission. And you matter because others depend on you. And at home, this clarity simply vanishes. Many veterans describe an existential freefall, thinking to themselves things like, who am I now? The skills that once defined them no longer apply. The intensity that once gave life meaning now has nowhere to go. Without purpose, the mind turns inward, and inward is where the war still lives. So you can see the cycle. When despair begins to emerge, it's often misinterpreted. It is not always a desire to die. More often, it's a desire for rest, for silence, for the inside noise to stop. This distinction is critical. People do not always want to end their lives. They want an end to endurance. Let me say that again. They want an end to endurance. Understanding this simply reframes compassion and it reframes responsibility. Trauma does not always stay contained. It often moves outward into marriages, into how someone parents, into silence at the dinner table. Children sense that tension before they understand it. Partners often learn to anticipate moods they cannot predict. And this is how war echoes across generations, not through stories told, but through emotions transferred, emotions unspoken, and emotions unresolved. We honor courage in battle, but we rarely honor the courage it takes to live afterward. The courage it takes to wake up each day carrying memory, to remain present despite the discomfort, and to ask for help in a culture that praises self reliance. This courage is more quiet. It definitely doesn't leave any monuments, but I promise you, it saves lives. Survival is not the end of the story. No, sir, no, ma'am. For many, it's the beginning of a longer, harder chapter. And it's a chapter without applause. It's a chapter without clear victories. If you are listening to this and recognize yourself in it, please know this. You are not broken. You are responding normally to abnormal experiences. And choosing to remain, is not weakness. It is, in fact, resistance. It is, in fact, defiance. And it is courage. History remembers more than it records. And for some of the bravest battles that were fought are after the war ended. I'm not telling people how to feel. I'm telling people this has always been part of the story. I am historical, and I tell history stories that refuse to be forgotten.